Hello, this is Brianna, and I am so excited that you're joining me today. This presentation, as you can see, is called Happy, Empowered, Confident Girl. So this is for you if you have a daughter who is a preteen, teen girl, or even a young woman. So what I want to go over with you today is what you can do to empower your daughter. Now, I know a lot of times on some of these webinars and trainings, people like to do a lot of chit chat and tell you their whole life story, but I'm not going to do that because we don't have time, and there are some real consequences that can happen if you don't follow the information that I'm about to share with you. So, for that reason, I just want to dive right in. So, who is this for? This is for any mom who is seeing her daughter making poor choices that could negatively impact her future. This is also for any mom who feels like her daughter is not living up to her full potential. And this is for any mom who is noticing that her daughter is losing self-esteem, has a lack of confidence, and showing signs of not loving herself. So in the next 45 minutes, we are going to go over how your daughter can build up her self-esteem. You are going to learn how your daughter can become more motivated and push herself outside of her comfort zone. You'll learn how you and your daughter can start looking forward to her bright future. You will learn how your daughter can heal her emotional pain without years of therapy. And you are going to learn how you and your daughter can start enjoying a more meaningful connection. My promise to you is that I'm going to show you a step-by-step strategy to empower your daughter. But first, I want to check in with you really quick just to see where you're at. Does this sound like you? Do you wake up in the morning tired from a horrible sleep because you can't stop worrying about your daughter? Are your daughter's problems really starting to take a toll on anything from your career, maybe even your health or your marriage? Are you terrified that your daughter is throwing her life away and there is nothing you can do to stop her? Do you ever feel like you failed your daughter as a mother because you've run out of solutions? Do you see your daughter putting herself down, making poor choices with dating, and you're finding yourself wishing she had more self-confidence, but you don't know where to even start? Are you sick and tired of going through this emotional roller coaster with your daughter, and all you want is some peace? Do you feel like your daughter needs your help? She needs your help, but nothing you've tried is working? If any of that sounds like you, then I have some good news for you. None of those things are the real problem. Those are just the symptoms. The real problem is that you haven't made what I call the shifts. We're going to talk about them in just a second, but for right now, just know this. Once she makes them, you'll be able to connect with your daughter in a way that you haven't been able to before. You'll find your daughter motivated in school and in her life. You'll be feeling on top of the world because she's finally found her inner happiness. You'll be amazed at how much has changed with your daughter's renewed energy and excitement for her life. You'll be relieved to know that your daughter has healthy, supportive friendships and relationships. You'll also have confidence in your daughter to make those good, healthy decisions for herself. But first, let me tell you a little bit about who I am. I'm an expert empowerment and confidence coach for preteen, teen girls, and young women. I have a master's degree in spiritual psychology where I was trained to work with people and help them identify, heal, and release the core wounds that are creating suffering in their lives. And I also teach transformational breath work to girls and young women to help uproot deep traumas, emotions, and limiting beliefs. So, when I was growing up, self-love wasn't even in my vocabulary. I struggled so much with so many different aspects of my life, and it all came from having low self-esteem. You see, I was a people pleaser. I never wanted to hurt anyone else's feelings. But you know what? In the end, I was the one who I hurt. And I had trust issues. I could trust every single person around me. But when it came to myself, I didn't know how to trust myself. No one had ever taught me. And friends, oh my goodness, I had friends that took advantage of me because I had such a kind heart and I didn't even see it coming. I spent so many years searching for the perfect relationship because I thought, well, if I just meet the perfect man and I get in the perfect relationship, then everything will be great. And then I'll feel whole and complete inside. And the truth was I had it all wrong because I had to find my own inner peace and I had to find what makes me happy within and not outside of myself. You see, every single experience that I went through seemed to chip away little by little my self-esteem, my self-worth, and my confidence. And it wasn't until I woke up one day and I realized that I couldn't live my life that way anymore. I knew that there was a greater purpose for my life. There was something deep within me that was telling me that there was more. There was more that I was here to do, and there was more that I was here to experience, but I just didn't know what it was yet. This was when I immersed myself in my spiritual and personal development. I attended workshops, classes, retreats, seminars, anything and everything that I could do to figure it all out. And then I went on a retreat with Don Miguel Ruiz, who is the author of The Four Agreements. And then I got a master's in spiritual psychology. And, you know, it was while I was getting my master's that I started thinking about all of the teen girls and young women out there that were struggling, that were suffering, and they needed help. And I knew that their only option was to go to therapy. And so I thought to myself, why does therapy have to be the only choice that you can make to help your daughter? I mean, there had to be more than just that. What I discovered throughout all of those years working on myself is that there are really only 5 shifts that your daughter can make to empower and transform her life. And the best thing about all of these shifts are that they work on anyone. I know every girl has a different past and a different story, but these shifts are powerful and they are effective and they will work on any girl or any young woman to transform her life as long as she wants it for herself. Before we dive into the 5 shifts, I want to acknowledge this epidemic of poor self-esteem among teen girls. First of all, I want you to know how important this self-esteem work is. And I also want you to know that what you're going through is totally normal. You are not alone, and I am here to help. So let's just look at some of these statistics right now. So right now, I want you to understand that 70% of the moms that are watching this webinar right now have daughters who suffer from self-esteem issues. So for example, Psychology Today did a study, and they found that 7 in 10 girls believe that they are not good enough or that they don't measure up in some way, including their looks, performance in school, and relationships with friends and family members. So what that means is if there's 100 people on this webinar right now, and if you don't do something about your daughter's self-esteem, 70 of you are going to have a daughter who has issues stemming from poor self-esteem. And here's something that's even worse. Out of those 70 of you, there will be 52 of you who have daughters who will get into cutting, bullying, smoking, drinking, or develop eating disorders. But you can stop all of that from happening and start to turn things around in your daughter's life starting today. So pay attention. So shift number 1 is what I call emotional release. It's a phase. She'll just grow out of it. Just wait till she goes to college, then it'll get better. So how many of you have either said one of these things, or maybe you've heard it from a friend or a husband or someone that you know? Okay? So I bet that's a lot of you. And I really want to address this because what your daughter is going through is not a phase. It is not something that she is going to grow out of, and it's not going to get better in college, okay? This gets worse. And so this is why it's so important. This is why I'm putting this whole training together, because I know so many of you parents out there, so many of you moms out there think that, oh, just give this a little bit of time and my daughter, she'll get better. It doesn't work like that. It actually only gets worse and worse and worse if what she is going through is not healed. So let's get into what emotional release is all about. So first of all, therapists, well-meaning counselors, and parenting books love to give you coping strategies, right? How many of you have read books and they give you all sorts of coping strategies, or maybe your daughter's therapist, loves to give her some coping strategies. But here's the problem. If only it were that simple. Coping strategies are useless because they don't address the root problem. And it's a mere Band-Aid to your daughter's issues. And they do absolutely nothing for the long term. So I'm not going to give you any sort of coping strategies in this training because I want more for your daughter than a little Band-Aid. So getting to the real emotional pain your daughter is experiencing is essential. And it's not about just looking at the symptoms of the pain that are masking the bigger issues. So suppressed emotions are what create your daughter's suffering. So we have to look at those suppressed emotions if we want to heal them. So again, like I said, they must be let out and they must be healed. So trauma, painful experiences, or unhealed relationships of any kind will leave a lasting imprint on your daughter's mind, her soul, and her entire life until it is acknowledged, healed, accepted, and given permission to live beyond it. Does that make sense? So when you get this wrong, moms, all of these tiny problems that are happening with your daughter right now, they're going to build and build and build. They are not going to get better by themselves. They're going to get worse and worse and worse until one day, boom, it might be some tiny little fight that you have with your daughter, or maybe some girl at school is bullying her. But this is going to set her off and push her over the edge. And you're going to find yourself praying for a way out of the mess that you're in. And you're going to be frantically looking for a way to save your daughter. And I don't want that for any of you. You can stop all of that from happening. So let's look at a couple of healing modalities that can change everything. Breathwork is a transformative breathing technique that releases stuck emotions that have been suppressed up and out of the body. So what's going on with your daughter right now is that she is walking around with all of these past traumas or painful experiences and all of these suppressed emotions that she doesn't want to feel. Why? Because they are uncomfortable, and it's not really easy for a teen girl or a young woman to go directly to the anger and feel what she's feeling, like feel the anger, feel the sadness, feel the shame, right? So most girls are stuffing those emotions down. But the problem with doing that is those emotions have nowhere to go, and it becomes stuck energy that's in her body. And it's almost like she's carrying around dead weight as she goes through her life. And this is going to interfere with her happiness and her fulfillment. There is nothing like breath work. There's nothing else out there that can take your daughter from feeling angry, sad, anxious, or depressed to being filled with so much love and gratitude in just 45 minutes. It will change your daughter from the inside out. And your daughter will be guided throughout the entire process. If your daughter is like most teen girls and young women, they don't want to talk about their problems. So this is another reason why breathwork is so amazing, is because your daughter doesn't actually need to speak about what has happened to her. She's actually healing it all through the breath. Another healing modality that I love is called emotional freedom technique, and it's also known as tapping. Now, tapping gets to the root of what's going on. It balances the mind and the body, and it's actually changing what your daughter does, how she feels, and how she experiences the world. So how it's done, it's very, very easy. There's different meridian points that are on the body. So your daughter will be tapping on these different meridian points. Most of them are on her face as she says certain things that are going to release the emotions that have been stuck within her. So, and another thing that's so powerful with this is that she is telling herself as she's saying these statements that she loves and accepts herself. And that is such an important part of this emotional freedom technique, because with whatever your daughter is going through, oftentimes she is not loving herself and she is not accepting herself. So this is why this is so powerful. It helps to calm the nervous system, and it rewires her brain to respond in healthy ways. So do you see how the emotional freedom technique and breath work, they are not coping strategies. These are healing modalities that can transform your daughter's life. I just used tapping with one of the girls that I work with this week, and she had intense anxiety from being bullied at school every single day. And so when I asked her before we started the tapping, I asked her, where is your anxiety on a scale of 1 to 10? 10 being the highest and 1 being the lowest. And she said, it's about a 6. We did the tapping for maybe about 20 minutes. And then at the end, I asked her, where does your anxiety feel on a scale of 1 to 10? And she said, it's a 2. And I know if we had even more time, I could have gotten it down to a 1. But going from a 6 on her anxiety to a 2 in just 20 minutes, that's amazing. And this is a girl that is being bullied every day. This emotional freedom technique works. It's amazing. Shift number 2 is what I call mastery of mind. Most therapists are not talking about conditioning the mind. And that's why there are so many people out there that are in therapy for 5+ years without seeing any real results. Your daughter's mind is the most powerful tool that she has, and most likely all she knows how to do is fight against it instead of utilizing it. Whatever your daughter is dealing with, whether it's poor self-esteem, anxiety, depression, an eating disorder, whatever it is, this has become like your daughter's natural state of being. And let me tell you what I mean by that. Because if your daughter has been dealing with this month after month and year after year, it's almost like it's become an addiction. It's not an addiction that your daughter necessarily wants for herself. It's not like your daughter wakes up and she says to herself, I want to feel anxious today, or I want to feel depressed. No, that's not what I'm saying. But because her body and her physical being is so used to showing up in this way month after month and year after year, it has become like an addiction. And so how do we stop this? How do we stop your daughter from always, being anxious or depressed or having this low self-esteem? Well, it all starts with breaking the habit of being herself. And we have to shift this and we have to change this. And so in order to do that, she has to mentally condition her mind. And this requires your daughter to make new beliefs about herself that support who she is. Most girls and young women don't even know the power that they have within them to create their own reality. And this is what will change your daughter's life, because she can create her own reality. But it's all about her mindset. What does she believe about herself? What does she believe about everything that is happening in her life? Because, there's something out there called the law of attraction. And this is a real thing. And it basically states what you focus on grows and expands. So is your daughter constantly complaining? Is she constantly looking at all of the bad things that are happening in her life and focusing on that? Or is she doing something different? Is she focusing on all of the positive things that have happened in her life? Because this creates her reality. Girls and young women don't know this. They don't know that they have the power within them to create whatever they want for themselves. Another part of mastery of mind is that it requires your daughter to make a new story for herself, one that empowers her and doesn't leave her feeling like a victim. This is very, very important because it's so easy for your daughter to blame everyone else for her life not turning out the way she wants it. It's very easy for her to blame you, mom, or her dad, or anyone else in her life. That is the easy thing to do, but the problem with that is it leaves your daughter feeling like a victim. And if she is a victim, she has no power. And she's not taking responsibility for her life. And the second that she is able to switch this and flip it, and look at her life in a different sort of way. Look at the things that have happened in her life and say to herself, you know what? That happened. And yes, it was challenging, but I came out on the other side of it all. And I am stronger because of it. And I realized how brave I am, how amazing and how strong I am because I went through all of that. Most girls are not doing this. Most girls are feeling like victims, but they are not victims. And so it's important for them to feel empowered with everything that has happened in their lives. When your daughter can start looking at everything that has happened in her life as an opportunity, not an obstacle, then that is when her life changes. Because when she can look at everything as an opportunity, and what was the lesson? Why did she have to go through that thing? Yes, it was challenging. Yes, it was hard. But what did she learn about herself? And what was the higher lesson? Because when she can go about her life in this way, game changer, everything changes. When she can look at her life as all of these things that are happening for her, not to her. So mastering the mind requires your daughter to override those negative voices in her head. And so the fear, the doubts, and insecurities don't take over. These mindset habits reprogram her mind to a new way of thinking. Shift number 3, use the secret weapon. Self-love is the secret weapon. It's the most powerful way for your daughter to transform her life. you might believe that the most important thing that you can do for your daughter is to tell her and to show her how much you love her. But that's not entirely true. Your daughter needs to earn her own self-esteem in order to believe it. And she has to learn how to cultivate her own self-worth. It's not something that someone can give to her. She has to find it for herself. When a girl lacks self-love, she's at risk for a number of things, and here's just a couple of them. She's at risk for running from one relationship to the next, always feeling needy and desperate for that love and acceptance. She's at risk for being plagued with self-doubt and insecurities that are going to leave her feeling like she'll never be good enough. She's at risk for getting into an emotionally, physically abusive, or toxic relationship because she doesn't know her worth and value. She's going to be at risk for stopping herself from pursuing her dreams in life because she doesn't believe in herself. And she will also be at risk for numbing her emotional pain from not loving herself with food, drugs, drinking, shopping, sex, anything that she can find so she can avoid that empty void inside of her. An estimated 19 to 30% of girls that are in college are diagnosed with an eating disorder. If your daughter doesn't love herself, she's going to constantly put down her appearance. Every time she looks into a mirror, she's going to say things to herself like, I'm ugly. I'm fat. Why would anyone want to be with me? I hate my hair. I have cellulite everywhere. I'm so disgusting. Her body is going to become like her very own punching bag that takes one hit after one hit after one hit. And she is going to feel it both emotionally, physically, mentally, and spiritually. The most important relationship that your daughter will ever have is the relationship that she has with herself. And it starts with nurturing that relationship. Self-talk is such an important piece of self-love. And most girls, so your daughter included, is probably really quick to criticize herself or put herself down. But it's really easy to be there for, like, if a friend needs her help. She might be the first one to help out a friend. But then it's like, how is she treating herself? And a lot of us are the same way. We don't know how to be kind and compassionate with ourselves, but we know how to do that for other people. Is this resonating for you? So it's really important getting back to the self-talk piece. What is your daughter saying to herself day in and day out? And it really all comes down to, when she can put her hands over her heart and really connect with herself in a way that she is not used to doing. And she can connect to, she's got this little inner child, this 5-year-old inner child that just wants her to love her, that just wants her to accept her. And so how is she talking to that inner child? Is she saying, I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I know we're just doing the best that we know how to do. Or is she being horrible and saying, you're stupid. I can't believe you did this. Oh my God, I hate myself. Do you see the difference in the self-talk? And the problem with all of this is that if your daughter has some really negative self-talk, she probably doesn't even realize what she's doing because it's become a habit. It's become, like I said earlier, like this natural state of being, and she doesn't even think twice about it. So it's really important. It's really important for her to start nurturing the relationship that she has with herself. And this changes everything. It changes everything. Shift number 4, letting go of the past. Were you raised to believe that discipline is the way to go when your daughter acts out? I hate to break it to you, but this is actually counterproductive because it's not serving your daughter and it's only pushing her into shutting down even further. So one reason that your daughter is either acting out or maybe just miserable in her own life is because she is imprisoned by memories and stories of what they have done or not done, or what others have done to her or not done for her. When your daughter's heart is clouded with anger and wounds or her fears, she can't see clearly, and she has no room to bring in any sort of joy and happiness into her life. Releasing and forgiving the past is your daughter's ticket out of her pain. It is also the way into her freedom. It's the tool that is going to give your daughter the courage to speak her truth so she can finally let go of her past and move into her future. As long as your daughter is unwilling to let go of her past, she's going to stay stuck in her suffering, and she will not be able to move forward in her life. Once your daughter can forgive herself, self-forgiveness is so important. There is such healing that can happen when your daughter can look at herself and say to herself, I forgive myself for everything that I have done, for everything that I have thought that disempowers me, that makes me feel weak, that makes me feel insecure. When she can forgive herself for doing all of this and for all of the judgments that she has placed on herself and others, then this is when she can finally accept what has happened in her life. And she is going to be able to see it differently. I want to share with you a little text message exchange and also a comment that a mom left in my Facebook group. And this is actually a mom of one of the clients that I work with. And as you can see here, she wrote, as her mom, this brings me so much joy. My heart is filled with happiness that she is finding new ways and healing. So you'll notice that a lot in this training, I am talking about this healing work. This healing work is something that you have not tried yet with your daughter. This is what gets to the root of it all. So she can start feeling happy and loving her life and feeling empowered. And this is where true transformation begins. I want to talk about the old way of doing things. In the old way, you bring your daughter to do talk therapy, but it's old, it's stale, and it has mainstream approaches that have been used for 50 plus years with a therapist who has built no real connection with your daughter. So there's no ongoing support. There's no accountability. Your daughter has to go into a stuffy and intimidating therapist's office. And it's outdated and ineffective. But let's take a look at the new way of doing things. In the new way, there's cutting-edge content and non-traditional practices. Unique approaches like tapping, breath work, deep inner healing, guided meditations, mindset growth, gratitude, emotional release, and self-love. And actually working with someone your daughter can relate to and connect with. The sessions are in the comfort of her own home, and there is ongoing support and accountability in between each session. Shift number 5, invest in coaching. Unless you've been teaching all of what I've talked about from the time your daughter was a little girl, she's probably not going to want to hear any of this from you. Why? Because you're her mother, and trying to teach this without proper training is just crazy. She needs a coach that will walk her along this path of transformation and healing. She needs someone who's going to believe in her, that's going to inspire and motivate her, who will support and guide her. And even in those dark moments when she can't believe in herself, even in those dark moments where she wants to give up, to have someone who is her person, who is there for her, that's a gift that only a coach can give her. Today, I promised you that you were going to learn how your daughter can build up her self-esteem. I said we'd talk about how your daughter can become more motivated and push herself outside of her comfort zone. I said you would learn how you and your daughter can start looking forward to a bright future. I said we'd talk about how your daughter can heal her emotional pain without years of therapy. And I said you and your daughter could learn how to start enjoying a more meaningful connection. So what your daughter needs, she needs 1, emotional release. 2, mastery of mind. 3, she needs to use the secret weapon, and that's self-love. 4, she needs to let go of the past. And 5, she needs a great coach. These 5 steps alone are enough to empower her for the rest of her life. The future belongs to those girls who can release their emotional pain, condition their minds for greatness, love themselves unconditionally, and let go of the past. Now you have a choice. It's up to you to choose what you want for your daughter. If you want something different, you've got to do something different, because to transform what you are seeing on the outside with your daughter, she actually has to transform how she feels on the inside. This work, this healing work that I do with girls, this is what it's all about, and this is what changes her from the inside out. What I do is not talk therapy, and there is a reason why talk therapy does not work. When I work with your daughter, I am your daughter's person, and there is never a more impressionable or influential time where your daughter needs an objective, experienced person that can both support and love her and teach her and call her out so that she can be the person that she wants to be, so she can go off to college and into her future and live up to her potential in the way that you know that she can. But she needs to believe that she can. Here's how I can help. I've set aside some time in the next few days to speak to you and your daughter about how she can apply these shifts for her life starting today. Whatever your daughter's biggest challenges are, I know how to overcome it. Both discovery sessions are completely free. On the call, I'll work with you to create a plan for your daughter so she can heal from her past, love herself unconditionally, and finally reclaim her power. Immediately after I speak with you, I'll get on a call with your daughter. So you see, as much as you may want this for your daughter, her connecting with me and feeling inspired to want it for herself is equally as important. Who are these calls for? They're not for everyone. I have to be selective and I have to be picky with who I speak to because there's just not enough hours in a day. And also I'm really busy working with my clients. So please pay attention to this part. You must be serious about wanting to help your daughter. Your daughter must be open and willing to speak with me. You must be open to thinking outside of the box for a new approach to help your daughter and not tied to any sort of belief that says traditional therapy is the only way to get results. If that's you, then book a session now. Why am I doing this? I'm doing this because I believe that every girl in this world deserves to love herself, to know how enough she is, how beautiful from the inside out she is, that she matters, and that she is here for a reason. Your daughter hasn't even seen yet what she's made of, the incredible things she's here to do with her life, and who she is here to become. It's time for your daughter to start living her best self, her highest self. Let's find out who that person is. Thank you so much for joining me today. Please go to briannacolwyn.com/apply and book your appointment to speak with me today. Spaces are very limited, so sign up now. There should be a little link to the right of this screen, and if you click on that, it should take you to my calendar section. And this is where you can choose a day and a time that works for you. But also, please keep in mind that right after the call that I have with you, your daughter will be getting on a separate call with me. So make sure, whatever day and time you choose, that it also is going to work for your daughter. And then after that, there'll be a little questionnaire with maybe about 5 or 6 questions, and you'll just fill that out really quickly. And then we'll be all set. And then you and I will get on a call at the time that you chose, and it's going to be the best hour that you have ever spent working to help your daughter. So again, please go to briannacolwyn.com/apply, and I look forward to speaking to you very soon.